So my belief, and this is just my belief, Krishna will show whether I'm right or wrong, is that historically there can be major obstacles to powerfully spreading our movement. And those obstacles are not only legal. Situation in China or in Cuba or in the former Soviet Union, where there were overwhelming legal obstacles and political obstacles to our traditional presentation. I believe that in the Western world, there are major cultural obstacles.
Okay.
And I believe that a cultural obstacle may be just as effective in keeping the movement from spreading as a legal impediment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so this is not a criticism of any other devotees. It's not a criticism of any temple. It's not a criticism of anything. It's just a practical consideration.
Mm-hmm.
So Krishna West, based on my, you could say, lifelong study of world religions and world history in general, sociology, ISKCON, I've been studying ISKCON my life, I believe that in order for us to go to the next stage, where Hare Krishna in Germany, in France, in America, Canada, Brazil, wherever, in the Western world, in order for us to become a powerful, major religion, we have to, or that we should adjust certain things. Now, this does not mean, as people, this kind of disturbs some people. Does that mean we're going to wear blue jeans on the altar to worship the deities? And no, it doesn't mean that. I'll tell you that this is in terms of, let's say, ISKCON as it has traditionally existed, with certain dress codes, and Festival of India, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A spiritual movement like ISKCON, really let's just take ISKCON for now, but it's sort of a general principle. In order to survive and flourish, of course, the first issue is survival, but let's say, for example, let's say you live in Germany and your first, obviously, need is to survive. But assuming that you do survive, the next point is you want to live well.
Yes.
Gutes Leben. You actually want a good life and to flourish, not merely survive. So, in order for ISKCON not merely to survive, but to flourish, any movement like ISKCON, we must accomplish two great historical obligations, which are to preserve our tradition intact, to preserve our tradition, and to adapt to changing times. If we only adapt and don't preserve, then obviously we just become something else.
Mm-hmm.
We change ourselves into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Preserve and don't adapt, history shows that is actually equally dangerous.
How is
because social science and history shows, like take an animal that does not adapt to its environment becomes extinct. And just like most new restaurants go out of business, it's a difficult sector, commercial sector. And so most new restaurants go out of business and most new religions go out of business. And this has actually been studied by social science, and reports are published that those religions or those new religious movements, I understand that Krishna consciousness is the oldest, but as a worldly institution, as an institution in the world, it's new.
Yes.
And so science has studied these things, and the conclusion is that all of the religions that survive and flourish and become important in the world adapt. and religions that don't adapt do not. And so again, there are some devotees in ISKCON who focus on preservation. In other words, let us preserve a certain traditional way of dress, although there's evidence actually from our own tradition that even, let's say, like a sannyas dhoti is not really traditional, because on the covers of our books, Lord Chaitanya doesn't dress that way. The six Goswamis, Prabhupada told me they're the ideal Vaishnava sannyasis. And we know from the song, in fact, Prabhupada told me to study them. Prabhupada told me that to understand Vaishnava sannyas, or in Chaitanya's line, study the six Goswamis and study them in the song, Vande Rupa Sanatana. Prabhupada told me that in Vrindavan. And so in that song, it said clearly, Kopina Kantashrito. They wore rags and copings. And so, in fact, one devotee scholar said that Bhakti Siddhanta saw that the Ramakrishna mission was very successful, and they wore this kind of sannyas dress, so then he adopted it.
Oh, interesting.
So, so getting back to the point, my attitude towards the traditional way that ISKCON does things, I respect that. Mm-hmm. I'm not criticizing it. I'm not attacking it. I'm not trying to destroy it. I respect it because there are devotees who feel inspired to preserve a tradition that is coming down to us from India. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. At the same time, preservation must be balanced by adaptation. Adaptation does not replace preservation. It does not defeat preservation. It's not competing with preservation. It balances it.